Welcome back, Strong Siders. Today we're going to be looking at the Nutritional Starter Pack Part 3. Today we're getting into how many calories you need, how many macronutrients you need. Now this is a very rough guide, but it's a good starting point for you to adjust things as you move forward without needing the help of a professional just yet. Let's take a look at our macronutrients. First, we have carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are sugars. They have 4 calories per gram of carbs. This is the same as protein. All our macronutrients we can get energy from. Carbohydrates happen to be a very easy source for energy. These are your sugars, and when they're in the form of like a single molecule, they're called monosaccharides. These are your fructose, glucose, and galactose. When you start combining these together like fructose and glucose, you get sucrose. These are disaccharides. And then you also have starches or polysaccharides. These are longer chains of sugars. These longer chains of sugars or starches are also called complex carbs. Sometimes we hear that complex carbs are better for us. What they really mean is that the complex carb has a slow burn release into the body because the body needs to break it down in order to absorb it, so you don't get it all at once. Whereas simple sugars or monosaccharides, they can just readily go into the bloodstream quite quickly, so fast energy versus slow energy. But in the end, 1 gram of sugar, regardless of its form, is still going to be 4 calories. So next up is protein, which also has 4 calories per gram. Proteins are very important because they repair our body, they help our body grow, and they also make up a lot of the enzymes that run the metabolic functions in our body. There are 9 essential amino acids. These are acids that we need to consume because our body can't make them on their own. Next up is fat. So fat per gram is 9 calories, so it is higher up there, so we don't want to watch how much we consume, but we absolutely need to consume fat. There are different types of fat, saturated fats and unsaturated fats. I'm supposed to say monounsaturated fat there, but there are monounsaturated fats and polyunsaturated fats. This all has to do with the chemical structure. So saturated fats, they're straight lines and they can stack up very easily with each other. So in a certain volume, you can put a lot of saturated fat molecules in the volume, whereas unsaturated fats have a broken shape to them, so you can't put as much in the same spot. That being said, when you're talking in calories and grams, it doesn't matter, it's going to have the same amount of calories per gram. Everybody needs a mix of these 2 types of fats. What we don't need is trans fats, mostly in processed food, so avoid it. Okay, into how much we need. First off, let's find out how many calories we need to find. We need to figure out your BMR, which is your Basal Metabolic Rate. Do not confuse with BMI. We don't care about the BMI right now, so forget about that. BMR is your calories at rest. So when you're laying like a corpse in bed, this is how many calories it takes to run your metabolism. The other thing we want to find out is your total daily energy expenditure, your TDEE. So this is your BMR plus your activity, right? And this includes everything from getting up and brushing your teeth, doing housework, or all the activities you do from sports to exercise. Okay, this next section is a very rough way to calculate these things. This is not the formula that you actually use. This will be very loose for calculating stuff. It's a very rough guide, okay? First, we need to calculate your BMR, your basal metabolic rate. We're going to take your body weight in pounds and multiply it by 10. After that, we're going to find out what your total daily energy expenditure is by multiplying it by an activity factor. This activity factor is how active your life is. Now, I've taken these numbers from the Harris-Benedict formula, but I've also slid them down a little bit. I've reduced how much the number is based off of that because I didn't want you to overestimate your calories. Basically, it's based on how many days a week you exercise and how intensely that is. So if you don't do any activity, you're going to multiply by 1.1. On the other scale, if you have a very active job, you're on your feet all the time, plus you exercise and play sports intensely 5 to 7 days, you might be multiplying by as much as 1.8. We're going to look at an example, but again, I want to mention that this is a very rough estimate of your BMR and your TDEE. Okay, so you can get this done very accurately, but this is how you can just do it at home for now. Good start point. So let's look at an example. We have a 200-pound guy who sits down at a job, plays hockey once a week, and goes to the gym twice a week, and it's very moderate on the intensity. So if we go back to our activity factor and we look down, he trains about 3 times a week sort of thing, so we're going to multiply by 1.35 to be conservative. So if we take his BMR, which is going to be his body weight times 10, equals 2,000 calories. Then if we multiply in the activity factor of 1.35, so we'll have BMR times AF equals TDEE, we find out that he needs 2,700 calories a day to handle his energy demands. So another rough, good starting point is to use these percentages to find out how many macros you need. So you're going to take the calorie total and you're going to multiply it by 40% to find out your carbs, and then 30% for both the protein and the fat. Again, this is not dogma. These numbers can shift up and down, and this is what you should do when you're trying to fine-tune your own nutrition. Otherwise, go see a professional. People do this for people all the time. Pay a little bit of money, find out what you're supposed to be doing, get tested out. This will help. But if you just want a nice rough guide to get a starting point before you take that route, let's do this. 40, 30, 30. So continuing on with our example, we have 2,700 calories that we have to allocate between our macronutrients. We want 40% of our calories coming from carbohydrates. So we multiply 2,700 by 0.4, which comes out to 1,080. That's how many calories you want. But now we want to find out how many grams of carbs we're going to have. Since there are 4 calories per gram of carb, we're going to divide 1,080 by 4 to get 270 grams of carbs. Then we're going to move on to protein. Protein, we want 30% of our calories coming from. So when you multiply 2,700 by 0.3, we get 810. Again, since there are 4 calories per gram, we'll divide that 810 by 4 to get 202.5 grams of protein. That number is important. A lot of times you'll get suggested that the amount of protein you're supposed to have is supposed to be 1 gram per pound of body weight. So there we go, a 200-pound guy having about 200 grams of protein. Then for fat, same thing. We want 30% of our calories coming from, but as far as the grams go, it's going to be much less because there are 9 calories per gram of fat. Still 810 calories, but 90 grams of fat. So this is a great starting point, guys. If you need a little bit more help, please seek out a professional, do some research online. And as always, stay strong, Strong Siders.